here. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome. For today's video, I am going to be going over all of my expenses for the third week in April. I'm going to be writing everything down here in my expense tracker. We're going to add everything up, color code everything like we do every single week. And then I'm going to use that information to fill in my hybrid budget for the week and do my weekly check-in. So it is the third week of the month, so we've got just 1 week left to get through. Let's see how I'm doing. I decided to combine this week. Sometimes I make 2 separate videos, one with the expense tracking and one with the budget check-in. When I have just a handful of transactions like I do today, it just doesn't really make sense to separate them because I would have a super short expense tracking video. So in this case, I'm just going to do it all at once, and we're going to get started with my expense tracker here. This is my expense tracker design for April. We're rapidly reaching the end of the month here. So chances are you're not looking for April budget worksheets, but the great thing about my worksheets is that a lot of them are undated. So even though this is my April design, you can use them any month in the year. This expense tracker, for example, has nothing indicating that this is April. So you can use this in May or June or July or whenever you want. So if you're interested in these budget worksheets, you can get them by joining my channel membership. And if you click the link down below that says join, you will be able to take a look at all of my membership tiers and pick the one that's right for you. The ones that have budget in the title, my budget buddies and my budget besties, are the ones that include access to some of the budget worksheets. If you want all of the budget worksheets, you're going to want to join at the budget bestie tier, and then you can get access to these, download them, and print them as many times as you'd like. If you're not interested in a recurring membership, or you're not interested in bonus videos and the other perks that come with the membership, and you just want the worksheets, you can get them from Etsy, and I will leave that link down below as well. So we are tracking for April 16th through the 22nd. My budget week always starts on Tuesday because that's when my husband and I get paid, on Tuesdays. And then we go from Tuesday to the following Monday. So that's what I have here. We don't have very many transactions, so let's get started with the tracking. Okay, so for you, no time has passed at all, but it's actually been about 20 minutes since I filmed the introduction to this video. My camera battery died, so I needed to switch that out. And then I got distracted by some things. So I'm back now, and we are ready to officially start tracking, starting with the 16th. So on the 16th, I did my grocery shopping, did a Walmart delivery order as I typically do. And if you've been watching my budget videos throughout April, you know that I really cut my budget way down for April and have been pretty much struggling to cut my actual spending down to reflect that. So once again, this week, I spent more than I should have in order to stick with that budget, but less than I have in previous weeks. And I'm just kind of coming to terms with the fact that I just have unrealistic expectations for myself and my grocery budget. I'm going to put my grocery budget back up higher next month. And I do have a buffer in my budget, and I'm likely going to use that for groceries as well. It's just not realistic for me to go from spending, $350 a week to trying to cut it down to $200 or $250 a week. It's just too big of a jump. I knew that, I think, when I set up my budget, but I was trying and I failed. Let's just be real. I'm going to be over budget in groceries this month. It just is what's going to happen. But that said, rather than spending $325 again this week, I spent $204.18, which I think is a lot better. Still, I think not going to be enough though to keep me under budget overall. We'll see, but I think that's still a little too much considering what I've spent the first couple of weeks in April. So there's that. On the 17th, I went to TJ Maxx. I was looking for some organizers for under my kitchen sink. I found a couple of things there. This is coming out of our spending category, and I spent $7.84. Just got what I needed and nothing extra, which is great. Also on the 17th, we had some of our auto pay things come out. So I had one auto pay bill that got auto paid for $50. If you're not familiar with my budget and how I do it, I have a line item in my budget called auto pay for all of the little bills like subscription services, streaming services, that sort of thing. They come out of my account automatically, and I just keep track of them in my expense tracker week to week. It just makes more sense to have it all on one line item in my budget rather than having 10 or 15 little $26 transactions here and $2 there. So I keep track of them all individually in my expense tracker, and then they all get lumped together into one line item in my actual budget, which you will see when I flip to my hybrid budget worksheet. So there was a $50 one that came out. We also had, let me zoom you guys in just a bit. The 18th was my Kindle Unlimited subscription, which is another one of those auto pay items. And the amount was $11.99. I love my Kindle Unlimited subscription. I love to read, but buying physical books is super expensive, and I don't really have the space to store them in my little teeny tiny mobile home. So I love my Kindle for that. I can have, dozens of books with me at all times. I can just slip my little Kindle Paperwhite into my purse, and Kindle Unlimited is a great way for me to get tons of books, access to a lot of them, and at a relatively low cost. Some more auto pay things on the 19th. We had Peacock, one of our many streaming services, and the amount that came out for that was $5.99. Also on the 19th, we went to Wendy's and grabbed dinner for the family. The 19th was the visitation for my husband's aunt's funeral. So my husband and I were there all day, and we just picked up Wendy's on the way home to feed the family. I was not in the mood to cook. So that's coming out of eating out. And the amount that we spent was $49.32. Also on the 19th, we had one more subscription, actually a bundle of subscriptions. AMC Plus and MGM Plus we have bundled. That is also an auto pay item, and that is $10.99. We had nothing at all on the 20th, and then on the 21st, we did some more eating out. So I feel like eating out, we're probably going to be over budget as well. But Austin had his first spring soccer game this day. We took his girlfriend Kenzie with us. So it was myself, my husband, Austin, and Kenzie. And after the game, we went to lunch, and we were divided on where we wanted to go. So half of us got Taco Bell. Austin and I ate Taco Bell. That's eating out. And the amount for Taco Bell was $26.57. And Kenzie and Eric wanted McDonald's. So we went through McDonald's as well. It's also eating out. And the amount we spent there was $27. Can you guys believe it? $27 for two people to eat McDonald's. Do you remember when you used to be able to go through McDonald's for $10? I sure do. It's not the case anymore. Granted, my husband eats quite a lot, as does my son. So Taco Bell for almost $27 for 2 of us as well. We do have some, you know, very hungry men in there, but even still, like, combination meals at those places used to be affordable, and they just are not anymore. That was it. That was all of my transactions for this week. Like I said, pretty short and sweet. And had I not been rambling so much, I probably could have cut the amount of talking down by quite a bit, and this video would have been pretty darn short. But that's okay. I'm going to grab out my highlighters. So we had no bills this week. All of our bills for the month at this point, with the exception of a handful of auto pay things, are paid. So we had no bills this week. I need a highlighter for groceries. So for that, we'll use yellow. For spending, we will do green. Eating out, we will do this minty color. And you know what? We'll do this green for auto pay, and we'll do this purple for spending. All right. Let's go ahead and pull in my calculator here and get all this added up. And I'm going to go ahead and silence my phone. So we're going to start with grocery. We had just the one transaction, so I don't really need my calculator for that. $204.18, and that is for grocery items as well as some household items. So I don't think that's too bad. If I could spend that much every week, $200 a week, that would be really, really reasonable. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. So that's grocery. For spending, I said we're gonna do this purple. And we had just the one transaction there as well. I thought we did pretty darn good at not overspending this week. Not a lot of transactions. We did buy some clothing for the funeral, but that came out of a separate fund, so you do not see that reflected here. But even still, I'm pretty proud of myself for this, because you guys know I tend to enjoy shopping very much. And I tend to have a bit of a shopping addiction. So we're going to do this. Did I say green for auto pay? I guess it doesn't really matter. We're going to go with that. Here we actually need my calculator. So we have $50 plus $11.99 plus $5.99. How many streaming services do you guys have? I would love to hear from you about that, because we have them all, I think. Plus $10.99. We all like to watch different things. So $78.97 in auto pay. And last but not least, then we have eating out. So we will do $49.32 plus $26.57 plus $27. $102.89. For that matter, how much do you spend eating out each week? Because I feel like not only do we spend a lot on groceries, but we spend a lot on eating out as well. I feel like some areas of our budget we are very modest about. Like our housing cost, for example, is low compared to most people because we own our home and we just rent the lot. So all we have is lot rent in terms of housing. So that's lower than average, I feel like. But our groceries, our eating out, and like our auto insurance, I feel like are all pretty high compared to like the norm. I don't know what is normal anyway, right? But I'm just curious, what do you spend on eating out and groceries? I ask that question all the time, but there's always new people. If you've never answered that question from before, I'd love to hear from you. All right, let's get this added up to see what we spent in total for these categories this week. $347 plus $393.88. That is super good. I'm very, very pleased with that. So now I'm going to pull this sheet out of my planner and we're going to flip to my hybrid budget and fill that in using this information. Here we go. So week 3. This is my hybrid budget. If you've never seen it before, it is a 2-page budget spread. Has everything I need to track my budget both monthly and to check in with it each week. There's a place for sinking funds, debt payments, and savings as well, which I'm not really using at the moment, but I love this 2-page hybrid budget system. We're gonna check in for week 3. And the categories that I check in for week 3 are pretty much the same you just saw me talk about. Auto pay. I check in week to week, and then I will have a total at the end of the month. We have the monthly budget here, and then I just break it down week to week, what we had spent, what we have remaining. Just helps me to stay on track with my budget. We have grocery. We have eating out. And we have spending. So this is going to go real quick, real easy peasy. I'm just going to take these numbers and transfer them here. So for auto pay, we spent $78.97. For grocery, we spent $204.18. For eating out, $102.89. And for spending, $7.84. Easy peasy. So now let's figure out what we have remaining for the last week of the month in each of these categories. So we started out the month with a auto pay budget of $300, as you can see here. At the end of last week, we had $190.91 remaining. This week, we spent $78.97. And actually, now that I think about it, before I do this, last week when I filmed my budget, one of you made a comment saying that I made a mistake somewhere. So let me double check and see what I did there and correct anything I need to correct. That's why I always write in erasable pens, because I make a lot of mistakes. Okay, so Tammy told me that I entered $38.31 instead of $38.81 when I did my subtraction in auto pay. So last week, $229.22 is what I had remaining, and I spent $38.81, which is $190.41, not $190.91 like I wrote in here. So thank you very much, Tammy, for letting me know that. If you ever see me make a mistake in my budget, please, please let me know. I am constantly making mistakes. Sometimes I catch them, other times I don't. So really quickly, that means that this total is going to be wrong as well. That's way wrong. So 190.41 plus 344.34 plus 177.56 plus 209.87 is 922.18, not 922.68. In the grand scheme of things, is, 40 cents or whatever really that big of a deal? No, but it would have driven me crazy at the end of the month if all of my numbers hadn't matched what's in my actual account. So thank you, Tammy, for bringing that to my attention. And now that I have proper remaining totals, I can go back to what I was doing. Auto pay, the end of last week, I had $190.41 remaining, and I spent $78.97, which means I still have $111.44 remaining in that budget overall. So we should be totally fine. I think I'm going to come in under budget for auto pay, which is good news because that will not necessarily be the case for some of these other categories. In grocery, I started the month out with $1,000. As I've already told you guys in this video, I'm going to raise that again next month, $1,000. I just don't think is doable with the way that we eat and the choices that we make at the grocery store. I am likely going to be over budget in this grocery category. I did build in a buffer into my account because I knew that that might happen. I always have a buffer in my budget because sometimes things just are more expensive than you expect. Sometimes you leave things out of your budget. I highly recommend including a buffer in your budget as well if you can afford to. But yeah, we started out with $1,000. At the end of last week, we had $344.34 remaining in that budget. We spent $204.18, which gives us $140.16 for the last week of the month. If I flip back to my calendar, I can show you here how my budget breaks down. You guys know I like to do a monthly budget, but check in weekly. And you guys know that when I check in weekly, my budget starts on Tuesday because that's when we get paid. So we did April 16th through the 22nd was the third week. So the fourth week is April 23rd through the 29th. That means this 30th is actually going to be part of my May budget. My May budget is going to start with the paycheck I receive on April 30th. And that's just how I choose to do it. You can do it any way you want, but I have just 1 week left in this month, the 23rd through the 29th. So that, when I'm giving you remaining amounts, that's when my budget will end. So 7 more days. $140.16 is not enough. I don't expect that we're going to come in under budget for groceries. Even if I tried to skimp and spend a little bit less, that's what I did this week and spent $204. So that's like a low week for us. 140 is just out of the question. Out of the realm of possibility. Maybe I will come in under budget in some other categories and offset that. Maybe I'll go into this $300 buffer. I don't know. You'll have to come back next week and see when I close my budget out. But I can tell you that 140.16 is not enough. So that is what it is. All right, for eating out, I gave us a budget of $300 for the month. At the end of last week, I had $177.56 remaining. And this week I spent $102.89. So we have $74.67 left for the last week in the month. I think that that is reasonable and doable. We typically eat out just once a week, so we should be totally fine there unless we go crazy, eat out more than once, or we go to someplace super expensive, which sitting down to check in with my budget today and knowing I only have $74 remaining, I will not choose to do that because I am aware of what we have left. And that's why it's important to always check in with your budget. Don't just write a budget at the beginning of the month and then not look at it again until you're closing it out at the end of the month, because that is a surefire way to go over budget. All right, and last but not least, we have spending. I started the month with $600 in our spending budget. At the end of last week, we had $209.87 remaining, and we only spent $784 this week, which is excellent. $202.03 remaining in that category, and I think we're going to be just fine there as well. Fingers crossed. So hopefully we can come in under budget in spending, and that'll help offset the overspending we're going to do in grocery. All right, let's really quickly just get totals. $393.88 is what we spent this week, which we already knew based on our expense tracker here. There were no bills or anything else here. This was all variable spending, so that number matches perfectly. And what do we have remaining? $528.30. So I think actually we might be okay overall. Yes, maybe I'll go over budget in grocery, but I think overall for April, unless something crazy happens this next week, which it could, I think we're going to come in under budget overall. Because look, we only spent $393.88 this week. We have $528.30. So if we have another week, this upcoming week, like we did last week with minimal spending, we'll be just fine. So yeah, that's a look at where I'm at for April. When I come back next week, we'll be closing everything out and moving on to May, which is crazy. So exciting. I need to get on the ball and design my May budget worksheets because I haven't even started that yet. Oh boy. All right. I'm going to go and work on that right now, actually, and I will see you guys real soon for another budget update. Bye, friends.